Hey everybody, I happened upon this video a few days ago. Actually, it was weeks ago. I was doing some research online and looking for videos done by chiropractors about certain topics, and I happened upon this 4K 43-minute chiropractic adjusting mastery flow with Dr. Brett Jones. And it sounds pretty cool to me. I like this sort of thing. So I want to share this with you. I happened to read through some of the comments as well. I didn't listen to the whole. I had it going in the background for a while. I liked the vibe of what he was doing, and I thought that it would be fun to watch this for a little while. I believe from some of the comments that this was in San Francisco or Oakland or something like that. So I'm going to watch this with you and talk about a little bit about what's going on. One of the neat things about this office is, I'm going to pause it right here, is the cool vibe. I know he looks obviously very cool. He's got the hat and the tattoos. He looks like a really cool guy. I happen to recognize the T-shirt he's wearing, so it looks like he's an instructor for a place called Kairos. I don't know whether he's, a main guy, but I've seen instructors wearing that, and I've heard about these seminars that are actually very good. So just by wearing that shirt, I know that he's serious about actually being very good at adjusting. And just actually hearing this, the 43-minute chiropractic adjusting mastery flow, I know that he's very serious about giving a good adjustment and creating an environment where he can really focus on what he's doing. And ultimately, the most important product that you have as a chiropractor, that you have when you're going to a chiropractor's most important product is his or her skill and his ability to actually focus in that moment to actually give an adjustment. So we call that PTC, or present time consciousness. I'm 100% focused on you right now. I just got distracted by watching somebody walk their dog out the window, but my goal is to be 100% focused on you and to just relax and watch a little video with you. And in his case, when you're getting into what's called flow, that makes me think, there's a book called Finding Flow by, the name is obviously very unusual. It's spelled Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I think it's pronounced a little different, like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. But there's a book called Finding Flow, and this is all about getting into that state of exceptional skill and focus, but also it being very easy. And in this case, what we have is him creating this situation where he can really focus on the adjustment and performing the adjustment. And what he's done, after I watched a little bit of this. He's going from patient to patient, spending just a few minutes with each patient. But look at this adjusting room. It'll be an open adjusting room. He's got 3 tables. He's only using 2. And he's actually got these wheelie walls. He's actually got these wheelie little half walls that are actually pretty cool. So he could set up walls in between these tables if he wanted to create a little bit of privacy. Some doctors will do what's called a T-bar, so they have a T-shaped area so it's blocked off from the front, but they'll have one table behind each. So when you go behind, once you're lying down, you can't really see what's happening. But an open adjusting area is very nice because you can just go from person to person, and it creates kind of a bit of a community, a bit of a different spirit in the area. The first adjustment he did was a hypothenar transverse, so that's to flex here. It looked really good. And now he's analyzing the alignment of the pelvis and sacrum. Maybe just a little adjustment there, but he's just checking to see where it's restricted. Now he's putting him in side posture. He's going to place a contact right on his sacrum, maybe his sacroiliac joint, and then he's rotating that sacroiliac joint forward. So an analysis and an adjustment, just extremely focused on what he's doing. And this happens pretty fast. I'm just going to pause it. What he did there is he checked her leg length to see if it was even. And then he's going up here. I don't know what he discovered, but that's going to give him some insight into what the alignment of her tailbone and pelvis is going to be like. And now he's going to do an adjustment. This table has drop pieces on it. I don't know if he's going to use the drop pieces or not. Oftentimes, his other table I don't think had drop pieces on it. And oftentimes you'll see chiropractors who are really focused on their skills, they'll have tables without drop pieces because they don't want to have a table that, they don't want to use gadgets. They want to use their hands and really connect with the person. My table has drop pieces. I don't use them. I very seldom use them. It's not that I don't use them, but I very seldom use them. I do use an activator quite often, which is an instrument, so I'm not completely anti-instruments. But it looks like he's doing a similar thing, analyzing the movement of the pelvis and the lower back. This could be a combination of treatment as well. But it looks like he's just preparing, just analyzing to put her into the right position. He's probably going to flex her sacrum. Yeah, so he's placing a contact on the sacrum, flexing it, and a little impulse. So that's kind of neat. Did you see how he pulled his hand away? So, you know, it could be a little bit of a flourish, but sometimes you want to, you know, kind of like in martial arts, they say you have to pull your hand away faster than you punched. There could be some reason he's doing that just from a psychomotor perspective, like he wants to do it very quickly. If I were to retract like that, I would do it not as far. Like it wouldn't even, you probably wouldn't even, it would be like this. That would be it. But I would, I would like this. So I don't know. It's hard to do it into the air, obviously, at the height where you can see it. But it would probably look something like that, where I'd be over into the adjustment, and then it would probably move about that much. But you could see how he was like, yes, like there's a little celebratory flourish with his hand going back. I think it's great. And again, too, there's a little bit of he does a little bit of a retraction. So it's just the way he does it. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that some people will say, well, he just went in, and I've heard patients say this, how do you adjust the neck without analyzing it? And he analyzed it and adjusted it in that few seconds. So I don't know how to rewind here, just the right amount. Here, pull up for precise seeking. Here, yeah. Boop. Yeah, there we go. We'll go back to here. So he's starting to analyze here, right? His fingers are touching the spine. He's pulling up. See how he's rocking side to side? Now he knows what he's going to adjust. Then as he's moving it to the side, he's finding where the exact restriction is, moved it a little bit, found the exact angle, and then did his adjustment. And that's how long that takes. And we're seeing the same thing with her, a little bit of distraction, traction. And this is going to be an occiput adjustment. I don't do this adjustment because I'm not very good at it. So when I adjust it, I do it a little bit differently. You can see how he's cupping his fingers under the chin, and then he will probably take his right hand and place it under the occiput, and then traction up toward up. So from her perspective, superior or upward, so that it brings her, it tractions her head and adjusts her occiput. So we'll see if This is what he does. There you go. So you can see which direction the force is going because of the direction of his elbow. So he waited just until that right time where she was relaxed, until he had exactly the right angle. And then you could see how she moved up the table about 6 inches. There's a nice smooth adjustment, looked like C1. A brief check of the leg length again. Checking the navicular and the toes. That could have been an adjustment of the hip or the ankle. I couldn't really tell. Now look at this. He's got a flat hand. So oftentimes when you are new to adjusting, you will use a fist, and then they tell you to let the spinous process. I'm just going to show you on this spine. This is better. This is the back of the spine. This is the spinous process. So you're actually nestling the spinous process in between like this so that you can do the adjustment. This is a lumbar vertebrae, so it looks different, but you're actually nestling it in there like that. He's using a flat hand, so he's just got it resting in his hand like this, and then he can do that. A flat hand's going to be a lot more comfortable to the patient. It's going to be more gentle, and he's going to get more precision by targeting the force from the front when he's on top and directing it into his hand and giving the adjustment that he wants to give. All right, and this guy's done. So it's interesting. I was watching it yesterday. It took me a while to see what was going on. But we are seeing people waiting in the wings, and they all seem to be around the same age. So I have a theory about why that's the case. Usually when you see a lot of chiropractors, my chiropractor adjusts in a situation like this, and you'll get people waiting on couches, and we all take turns, lie face down. If there's something significant or different, you might say, I'm really sore in my right side. I fell over, and they'll say, okay. And then, he might check things. But for the most part, people are just going to lie down, lie face down. Everything. Is anything new or different? No. People are there really to get adjusted. It looks like he's really paying very close attention to the breathing patterns. So when somebody is breathing, as soon as they lie down, one of the first things you're going to look at is if they're breathing, because they might not be. They might be holding their breath, and sometimes you'll stand there and look at them, and after 30 or 45 seconds, you'll just see them, and they suddenly start breathing. But we do want to try to figure out, I guess, intuitively and visually how the body's moving with each breath, what the diaphragm's doing, and just make a note of how visually there might be tension going up the course of the spine and what we can do to interact with it to improve it, I guess, for lack of a better word, without getting into crazy details. And we saw him actually touch the lower back and say, take a deep breath. He's just seeing how that moves, and then he did a very gentle stimulation as the person was exhaling. I think that's maybe a little bit of network. So network is a specific type of technique. So oftentimes we'll just use these types of just a little bit from different techniques and throw them in there just to see what the breathing is like, see how the breathing is being affected by everything. So getting somebody to take a deep breath and exhale and stimulating that area a little bit. There are techniques that are going to actually do that just to create a connection between your brain and that part of the body so that it starts to move more normally. Because oftentimes we'll think of things from a mechanistic perspective where it's like, oh, these joints are stuck because there's scar tissue, or, you know, I'm not stretching enough, or whatever however you rationalize it. But most of the time, what's moving those muscles, it's your brain and your nervous system and your behavior. You know, even as I get excited talking about this right now, you can see my shoulders tightening up, and that could be happening unconsciously on a different level in my lower back and pelvis, in my glutes, in my abdomen, my hip flexors, my chest, my diaphragm, my shoulders, my neck, my jaw. You know, if you grind your teeth at night, it's probably your jaw, your suboccipital muscles if you're getting headaches a lot. So these techniques where, you know, we're just looking at the breathing is just to say, what can I do right now? What can I do just a little bit to normalize this, to optimize this flow of energy through the body? Patients are always saying they can't remember where to put their arms. You don't need to. Just don't remember where to put your arms. Just forget about it. Let the chiropractor position you. Don't shift. Don't wiggle around. Don't move. I am noticing that there are a lot of these patients are well behaved, and I was a little jealous for a while. Then I clued in. We could see them all watching here too. I did clue in that this is probably a Chiro seminar, and he's probably adjusting at the end of the seminar. Unless it's like a college night and they're all college student, you know, coming in. I'm not, you know, this sort of scene at a chiropractic office of this type isn't unusual, but it is a big group. Usually you will see 3 or 4 people, but you could see, you know, there are chiropractors who are lined up out the door. But the way that they are watching reminds me of the way chiropractic students and new chiropractic students will watch somebody who's experienced and more masterful when they're adjusting. And I've had it where, you know, when I've worked at an Ironman, and there are usually about a dozen of us, but not everybody can adjust, and a lot of them will be students. And you know, if we have a lot of doctors coming in from out of province and they're not allowed to adjust people. So I would be adjusting, and then suddenly I'd look over my shoulder and there would be 4 or 5 new grads or students watching me adjust, because they hadn't seen anybody really do it in a flow, really fast, putting in the techniques that they're learning in a real life sort of situation. Whereas for me, that's just going to be almost unconscious. So I just sort of look up, and then you see all these eyes looking at you like this. You start to realize, Jesus, I've been doing this for 15 years. Maybe they're very interested in this. And to see somebody go through this flow, especially in school when you've been taught, oh, I have to do an exam and I have to get a history and I have to write a SOAP note. All these people have already been examined. They're here for their treatment, which is going to be a regular treatment, and they're here to get adjusted, and that allows the chiropractor to really just focus on looking at the body and doing the adjustment that's appropriate. There's a saying that, you know, the person that lies in front of me is gospel. So when they're lying in front of you, that's what's actually true. It's not the X-ray. It's not. A lot of it, I mean, you're going to consider what they said to you, but it has to reconcile with what you're seeing. And you know, studies, it has to reconcile with what you're seeing and what you're doing in the moment. If what you're doing then in that second works, then that's what you're going to do. And this is a very freeing expression of what he's doing, where he's just, where he's just focused on helping the person in front of him to the best of his ability and doing his best. And I think that's a beautiful thing. The less you stand in the way of somebody like this who wants to do their best, I think the better. So he's positioning her head, I think, just so that she's in the right position. Looks like flexing the sacrum. And you could hear the audible crack there. That's really nice. So yeah, he's doing that again. I think he's doing this to adjust the hip, I think in the last person too. So what he did there, he just contacted the hip flexor and told her to breathe. And what happens is you will unconsciously put tension in certain areas. So he's just resting his fingers on it. He's saying it's okay. Breathe and just bring your attention to this spot. And lie there for a second. That can be revolutionary for somebody who's very high strung, especially. I'm not saying she is, but if somebody is very high strung and they just won't take a minute for themselves or lie on their back, lie in corpse pose for 5 minutes. In yoga, they say that's the most difficult pose. You lie there and do nothing. He's saying, think about that for a minute. I want you to relax your hip flexor. So I think this is a new patient now. So the next patient came down, put on a face cloth for herself, and it looks like there's a cushion there as well. And she's ready to get adjusted. Imagine if all offices were this efficient. Usually we'll say, hey, how's it going? But, is there anything new or different? So you might say something like that. But there are patients where they know that if there's something new or different that they have to tell me. They've been in many times, and they just lie face down and they're relaxed, and you just have this moment. And it's really nice, because the less you distract the chiropractor, probably the better a job that he or she is going to do. So this is I think this is the point of what they're doing, is to get into this state of flow. So he didn't ask her to breathe in and out, as we often do. He just waited for her to breathe in and out regularly. So he's getting her to I'm just back to when he got her to put her hand on her hip. I think what he's doing is just getting her to bring some awareness into that spot on her body. I think it's pretty cool, and that is helping her to actually relax her pelvis. When he adjusted her neck, I don't watch video of myself. I think I would probably be worse than him, but I feel like when he adjusts his with the neck, that he goes in quite quickly, whereas I would be more pre-tension and then a tiny thrust. He looks like he goes in and then goes just beyond tiny thrust and then out quickly, whereas I would probably do that more controlled, I think. My adjustments, I don't think, look like that. It would be interesting to have somebody come in and video it, though. But that might distract me. And it was neat how he just said acceptance, trust when he did that. I don't think I would say that. He's putting ideas in my head. but I would think that if I was feeling there's some resistance, I would either just not do it. I would probably just not do it, or I would wait, and I might put my hand on their shoulder and say, I don't think you're ready for that one, but we'll do it next time. It's okay. So, we'll do something else, and we'll just go on to the next adjustment. I might not say anything. I might just set up, and if they're not feeling accepting and trusting, I would just not do it, or I would do something else that it felt like they were accepting and trusting of. But maybe that's just something he says all the time. I don't know. I've heard him, I think I heard him kind of humming or whistling or something. Whatever works for him. There you go. You see how he told her to just breathe into that? He said, I want you to just start to acknowledge. So there's like an acceptance of being, there he's whistling again. But it's just being aware, having an awareness and bringing an awareness to the body so that your body can adapt accordingly. That looked like an SI adjustment, so he's flexing the sacroiliac joint. That didn't look like the sacrum, so a little bit different. Okay, so he's got a Y strap. So I don't use a Y strap adjustment. There's been a lot of controversy about, and I don't know actually yet if he's going to do an adjustment or not. Usually when we do a Y strap adjustment, I don't do them, but if we do, you slide the patient down so their legs go over the end of the table, and that kind of holds them on the table. But she's at the top, so he might just be doing traction. Or he's doing it the way he wants. But we saw him analyze her neck, analyze the rotation, and then he went up to the head and felt the traction, and he obviously felt some type of resistance there. So he's saying, let's use the Y strap. Now, I've recently heard some controversy because there aren't very many studies with the Y strap. I don't think that matters, because the Y strap is really just an instrument to accomplish what you're palpating with your hands, and you can still feel the movement of the joint through the Y strap. So the Y strap is just an extension of the hands of the chiropractor. So any move that we're doing with the Y strap is no different than what we're doing with our hands. It's just a little bit different. So my experience with the Y strap, you can really feel that movement. He already checked the movement. He knows what he's looking for. Now, if he used the Y strap, he can use that device to actually get a little bit more attention, a little bit more easily, make it more comfortable for the patient, make it more likely to get a positive result. What else can I say about that? Not much. There actually is a device that we used in chiropractic school 20 years ago. It was kind of like a belt. It would be like a Y strap, but without the handle, and we wrapped it around our hands like this. So there was a belt between our fingers, or in here, and then around the... How did it go? It went around like this, around the occiput, and then we could hold the occiput, but that would help us. And then we looped it around our shoulders or elbows. And that was actually quite nice because you could really get a lot of power, and made it very easy. I haven't seen it since, but the Y strap has become famous. The actual instructions on the Y strap don't say to do a thrust, but a lot of chiropractors are doing thrusts because why wouldn't you? It's just an extension of your hands. It's supposed to, according to the directions, it's supposed to be used just for traction. And I don't blame them for putting that on there. But as a chiropractor, if you're doing traction adjustments, like we were showing that occiput adjustment with the traction, why not use this as well? And the manual traction adjustment to to just pull like that is actually quite challenging. And this makes it a lot easier. So you can see how she went up the table about 8 inches. If you hook the legs over the edge, that lessens that, but they still can travel up the table. There's another adjustment called a ring dinger, where they use a towel. That adjustment was actually banned when I was in chiropractic school. It was banned in our school. People still did it, but there was a device that clamped on the hips to actually hold you there, kind of like with a traction table. And then they would put and you may have seen videos of people doing this, the ring dinger, and then they put a towel under the neck and use that to pull backward. I don't think there's anything that could really be, when you're tractioning, that's one of the least invasive adjustments that you can do. I mean, it doesn't put any, what's the word I'm looking for? Any damaging stress on the joints. It spreads the discs apart, and that's usually good for the discs. And it's not going to be hard enough that you're creating problems. And you saw how hard he pulled. It wasn't that hard. So like with any adjustment, the amount of precision that he has with the amount of force that he's using is really important. So again, starting at the ankles, he's just looking, analyzing, connecting, watching her take a breath. So what I do at the beginning of the adjustment is I check the leg length in position 1, position 2. If the sacrum is out of alignment, I adjust it with the activator. So he doesn't do any of that. But it does look like he looks at the alignment of the sacrum, and he's looking at the movement to look for stress patterns that are going up, subluxation patterns, we might call them, going up and down the spine and into the pelvis throughout her body. And as he's pressing on the sacrum, he's probably looking for changes going up to see if there are any changes. Because if you touch an area of subluxation, it'll actually change those patterns going up the body. So that's part investigation, part treatment, just to say, well, is this going to change things? Probably. That was great. So, I mean, you could see just that really deep analysis of C1, and then he's like, yeah, I'll adjust that. That one adjustment of C1 can change somebody's life for the better, just in that one moment. So right in here, I use a technique called Logan technique. And what we do is we contact, hopefully you can see my cursor, we contact right here the sacrotuberous ligament. Sacrotuberous ligament actually is continuous with the dorsal sacral ligament, goes up the sacrum and then up to here. But the purpose of contacting that is you can feel the pulse of the cerebrospinal fluid. It's very difficult to feel. You have to be very intuitive. And you can feel it flow with the breath. And if you contact different areas of the spine at the same time, you can feel if there are differences in between it. In other words, if the flow isn't continuous and it just feels blocked. And what I've done over the years is I've moved that contact instead of at the sacrotuberous ligament because it's kind of in a personal area. I don't know whether, because I've been practicing for 23 years, I don't know where I learned to do this, and it could be a completely different technique, but I've considered them very similar and the same, and with the same sort of concepts involved, but I contact up higher. is what I'm trying to say. Because then I don't have to go into more personal area. So I will move 1 or 2 inches up. And sometimes I will do the same sort of thing, just putting my hand on the sacrum like that. I don't know if it's an actual technique. If he's doing the same thing I did, it probably is an actual thing that people learn from each other, and I may have picked it up. But we can see how he's holding the sacrum, feeling probably the breathing patterns. The sacrum is supposed to shift with each breath, and seeing how that relates to the rest of the spine. And that's going to give him a lot of insight. And by applying small amounts of tension and attention into those segments, you can correct those movements and those behaviors in the spine, and that can actually improve that flow of energy going up into the body. So that's my take on what he's doing now. Good, and that's a cross bilateral hypothenar transverse, I think. So that's a rotational adjustment, and he did it very low, which isn't easy. I was practicing for a few years. I would say 6 to 10 years before I really could just, somebody could lie down and I could adjust T11, 12 like that.
Everything sinks. There we go.
So if he's straight out of school, I don't think he is, but if he was straight out of school, I'd be very impressed. It's hard to tell. Maybe it was T10. It's hard to tell from where I was, but it looked very low in the thoracic spine. Now he's going to position 2. There we go. Position 1, position 2, and he's using that to analyze the movement of the pelvis. So that's what I would do with each patient, and it looks like his pelvis, oh no, his pelvis is out of alignment. Or not moving. So it looks like he's on, it might be L5. That might have been an L5 adjustment. So C1 or C2, perhaps? That looks like maybe C1. Yeah, that's C1. It's a guess. And you can see that when he does that adjustment, C1 moves. I'm just going to pause it because you can see that C1 moves, but her head has 80 degrees of rotation, but it probably only moved 45. So he's isolating that joint, moving it not to the whole range, but he's doing the impulse fast enough that he's actually adjusting that joint without moving her through the full range of motion. And I think there's a bit of a misconception that when a chiropractor adjusts the neck, that they're like turning it all the way. And oftentimes you'll get people, that you shouldn't do this, but people cracking their own neck and they'll turn it as far as they can. And it's cringeworthy because that could be very damaging. The amount of rotation she had was nowhere near the limit. And then he followed that up with a manual traction adjustment. So he obviously felt with her, he didn't need the Y strap, which is, nobody's needed a Y strap up until like last year. So it makes sense. But then he did a traction adjustment on her neck, and it probably felt great. One of the things you'll notice is that people start face down, do right side, left side, or whatever side is needed, and then lie in their back. It doesn't have to be always right side, left side, back, or whatever, front or back, but it does make it a little bit easier to get into a flow and to keep track of where you are with each patient. If you do have a moment of distraction or even intense focus, you may forget where you are with that patient, because you're so focused in on what you're doing in that moment that you've forgotten the big picture, and you can't keep track of where you are in what you're doing. So it helps a lot to do things in order. His tables are quite low. You could see him stand up there and kind of bring his shoulders back. But having a lower table helps you to, oh, he's doing a little Reiki. Why not? That, you know, that's, Reiki might seem a little bit strange, but we've had seminars where, you know, we actually are feeling for issues without touching the spine, and you just sort of suddenly they you know, you put your hand on just the exact spot that's painful for somebody, and feeling that energy, maybe it's heat, and connecting with it. I think at least trying to connect on that esoteric level is actually a very good idea. I don't know whether it works or not, and it doesn't really matter, because you're not going to hurt anybody by doing that. But trying to connect on an emotional level, I mean, an emotional level isn't necessarily palpable either. And some people don't think that that's worthwhile. You know, they don't care if we're wearing masks or if we, you know, they just want that we just have to collect the facts. There's no regulation about us having to connect on an emotional level. So why not try to connect on an emotional level? We know that's valuable. Why not connect on a spiritual level too, or an energetic level? I think I think that that's something that it certainly doesn't hurt to do, and it might just give him a break, a chance to just. He's like, you know, I need to stand upright for a minute because I've been hunched over these tables for 15 minutes. I need to take a break and just feel the energy for a moment. I might as well do something that is potentially useful and allows him to still focus on what he's doing and actually increase his focus, but still take a small break. So just my take. Good, another sacrum adjustment. And then back on the stomach again. I think he's going to recheck the alignment. Wow, he really brings his hips over the table. That's one of the advantages of having a low table like that. Mine is probably 2 or 3 inches higher. You can see them behind me. So I think that was kind of neat what he was doing. You know, I already described Logan technique, but when you contact the sacrum and the occiput, they are actually meant to move together. So when you move the sacrum in a certain direction, the occiput should move in a way that complements that. And it looked like what he was doing was not just moving his sacrum, but actually going down into his leg and applying tension probably on the fascia to see if putting tension on the sciatic nerve, because it will connect near. He put his hand right on the hiatus of the soleus, That's where the sciatic nerve is. That would put tension on that. And then going all the way up, he might be able to see if that's having an effect up near the cervical spine. So it was an interesting thing. I think you're going to get a lot of information as a chiropractor about the tension in the body by doing what he was doing. I don't recall any specific, learned technique with a name where that's done, but I do appreciate what he's doing. What I want to do in a second is actually go to his website and see what his exam's like. Because we're starting to see the same adjustments over and over again. It's getting less interesting. Still awesome. So it looks like what he's doing is contacting C1, I think, and checking to see if there are changes going up into C1 from when he's contacting the upper back. C1's really important for upper back movement because if C1's stuck, those muscles going down into your shoulders will spasm for sure to try and get it moving again. Also, the spinal accessory nerve comes down around C1, supplies the trapezius muscles. So checking that, he'll be able to adjust her upper back, and then when he turns her over, he's prepared to adjust her neck, and he's getting just a sense for what's going on. One of the nice things about moving from the patient's perspective, one of the nice things about the doctor moving from table to table is that, he's only spending about 1 minute or 2 minutes actually hands-on with each patient. And that can be very fast. So this allows me, while I'm getting adjusted, to actually, or you, while you're getting adjusted, to actually recover between each adjustment and not feel rushed. Because sometimes it's like, big release in your upper back, and then it's like, hey, turn over, and you're just like, I need a minute. But if you have a minute to actually lie there and take 5 or 6 breaths, that allows your body to accept the adjustment a lot better. So for some people, this idea of multiple tables, I think is a little bit foreign, but it actually is quite relaxing. One of the chiropractors I go to has 4 tables, all next to each other. We are starting to see some of the same adjustments, so let's just see what some of the comments say. So relaxing and therapeutic, great work. Keep up the great work. These are my absolute favorite types of videos. I could watch him do this for hours. The music, his style, it's all just relaxing. And I think it's really good. I don't see very many criticisms or actual questions, just gifted, gentle, healing hands. I love it. I like how you read the body from inner wisdom. Some people think it's just adjusting. It's more to it. Plus, everyone has different bodies and energies. Absolutely. I think it's really good. This guy, I would feel super relaxed until I look up and see that I've been getting watched by 30 people the entire time. I would say usually when you go into a chiropractic office, there won't be 30 people. I get so nervous every time he goes for the neck. Yeah, I don't know why that makes you nervous, but that's the way it is. Really good. I do want to see what, I think I pulled it up. This is his website, The Source Chiropractic. I got the impression that he was in Oakland, and now he's in Tucson. There you go. So best chiropractic in Oakland, multiple years in a row now in Tucson, Arizona. get out of pain, get back to doing what you love without drugs or surgery. And I wanted to look at, I saw this and I wanted to look at what his actual, I saw this, but I didn't read it. So when he does his actual adjustment, some people might be thinking, well, he doesn't examine them. But what happens when you go to an adjustment, or sorry, when you go to a chiropractor's, they will examine you, and then typically they will say, okay, you have this issue, we have these issues, we found this. What I would like you to do is come in 2 or 3 times a week, let's say for 12 visits, so 3 or 4 weeks. And so if you have headaches, that's most likely 80% chance to make you'll feel great after that 4 weeks or 12 visits. And then what we'll do then is we'll reevaluate. So the visits are actually just treatments, and the exam has already happened. But those visits can be very short because you're just examining the body, and you obviously want to know if something's new or different. And every exam is going to be different depending on the chiropractor and what they do. So in this case, they do a needs-based one-on-one consultation. So you get to the root cause of what you're experiencing. So yeah, consultation is the first thing that every chiropractor has to do. In my office, we just sit for at least 10 minutes, and I just listen to everything you have to say, and I read your intake form, and I get the whole story, so I don't tell you anything. Then a digital posture assessment, and video analysis. So there are programs. I use a program that does digital posture assessment. I don't do the video analysis of walking and squatting, but it is very interesting. And then they do muscle strength and specific tests. So really great idea. I like the way he describes it too. He doesn't say orthopedic tests, he says specific tests. I would say orthopedic tests, but I might change it because I think specific tests is a better description. Chiropractic functional tests. So this, in a way should go without saying, but yeah, we're going to do chiropractic tests in order to use those specific algorithms to decide what the best adjustment is for you. And then an individualized care plan. 6 months of chiropractic video exercises. Wow. Add exercises, stretches, and strategies for you to do at home. I think that's pretty good. I wrote a stretching book, but I don't have videos, and I've often been told. You can see also he's not very good looking, so I don't know if he does the videos or not, but Tucson looks pretty cool. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. And maybe if you have the desire to see more videos of his, you can go to subscribe on his channel, Dr. Brett Jones. He's got about 80,000 subscribers. I've got about less than 200, so it doesn't matter whether you subscribe to me or not, but a lot of people that matter to me do watch this channel, and I do hear them saying that they've seen my videos, so I hope you found that interesting, and I'll see you next time. Bye.